Thank you, Ms. Penkova, and thank you, Mr. Roos and Monsieur Riquet, for having me here today. Appreciate your patience. I'm going to take this off. I think I can speak without it.
Yes,
yeah. I'm not at all a scientist. I never really was involved heavily in the environmental movement. I'm a filmmaker, a dramatist. I tell stories. I made 20 feature films. I made 12 documentaries. What should I do now? That's what I asked myself. About 4 years ago, I thought, I'm going to try my hand at nuclear energy, of which I know very little. I am very interested in nuclear energy. I always was, but from an outside point of view. What struck me as strange was that when we all saw the Al Gore film in 2006, An Inconvenient Truth, many of us cheered and said, this is great, this is what the solution, this is going to change things, because we were accepting the idea of a climate crisis, which we had, as a young man, I had no idea of. I'm talking about the 1970s, when in America we could hear the voices of Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader was very respected and told us about our safety. And he said, and you saw in the clip, he said that one nuclear reactor in Cleveland could blow up the whole city, as well as leak over into Pennsylvania. He made the idea, the image of nuclear reactor, that of a bomb, which frankly is not even accurate. And that is one of the misconceptions and miseducations that's been going on for years. And the media has not clarified it. So this is a role for, I believe, a documentary that states clearly what's wrong, what nuclear energy is in the first place, and what we're doing about it. But I ran into a wall. Mr. Gore's film talks about hydropower, it talks about sun, and it talks about wind, as if that is enough. He does not mention, they do not mention one time in that movie, and it's a beautiful movie, they don't mention nuclear power. I say, why? It's strange to me. I'm not an expert. Why? Why does it... Qu'est-ce qui se passe? And so now we've had almost 20 years we've been chasing renewables, and look at the figures. The fossil fuels still provide 80% of our energy. 80%. And in fact, it's gone up to 84, something like that. So it's Mr. Gore's solution of building out renewables, which are very expensive, trillions of dollars have been spent, we love to see more energy, clean energy, but the price is the same. We're still, CO2 is poisoning the earth. These are the waste products of gas, oil, coal, and methane gas is very popular now, especially as a replacement for sun and wind when they don't work. As we know, the wind works a lot, about 35% of the time, and the sun we can count on maybe for 11%. Depends on which country you live in. Belgium is not a sun country as much as Africa. So the mathematics just don't work. And there was a book that came out in 2019 called A Bright Future, which was optimistic. It was by two scientists. I urge you to read it. It's very short. A Bright Future. It's published in America. And I read the book, and I thought, this is a very practical book. These are two people. One's a nuclear physicist from Sweden, and the other one was a sociologist with a very high pedigree from Boston who studied this issue deeply. And together they have written a book which says that we need nuclear energy, and we need a lot of it. And that is the basis on which I made this documentary, of which you've seen 10 minutes of the hour 45. It's very important, I hope, that you can spend the time to see the rest of it, because I tried to exhaust the subject as a filmmaker, tell the story of nuclear energy from the beginning with Marie Curie, through Einstein, through World War II, and through the mistaken notion that nuclear was involved only with a nuclear bomb. Because unfortunately, when nuclear energy was developed, Lise Meitner in 1938, all the work, Enrico Fermi in 1941, proved that we could control fission experiments, but all that work was lost when we dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, unfortunately, and Nagasaki. It was associated with death and great power. But if you read a little further, right after the war, Dwight Eisenhower began a program called Atoms for Peace, which was a beautiful program. And it worked for almost 20 years, maybe even 25 years. President Kennedy followed and called for more and more and more nuclear power. Many people mocked it. Eisenhower was only a president until 1959 and 60, and President Kennedy in 63. But after we built, and in the United States, we built about 100 reactors. France followed our lead. Charles de Gaulle built 57 reactors in France. They all worked. And they gave America what we now have. We have a legacy of 20% of our electricity comes from nuclear energy, from these original reactors. So the world was moving in this direction. The Soviet Union built the first civilian reactor in 1954, and they were developing nuclear energy. They have 20% of their energy is nuclear. Japan, Korea followed, Great Britain, Germany even followed. The world had built up over this period up to about almost 500 reactors, all in approximately 25 countries. So what happened? The 1970s happened. All of a sudden we got environmental movement, the Green parties grew very aware of pollution, and as we said in that clip there, they confounded pollution with war. And the Vietnam War was raging at the same time. So there was a confusion, a conflation of ideas. Any scientist will tell you that a bomb is very, very difficult to build. It requires the enrichment of uranium up to 95%. 95% is up here. That's a lot of work, very complex, takes time. Nuclear energy requires 2-3% uranium enrichment. 2-3%, 95%. That's low. This is low-level radiation down here. Low level, high level. This is very dangerous. This is not very dangerous. We live with radiation. Sometimes you can do a 5% reactor. Some people have even done 20% reactors without any problems. But we can build with 2 to 3%, you can build an energy source that is amazing. It is a miracle. It comes from the earth. Uranium is one of the elements in the original explosion that occurred at the beginning of time when the supernova exploded, and we have all the elements of it we have in the ground here, which are, we still don't even know what we have the potential of the earth. We don't know the potential of the earth. We don't even know the potential of nuclear and all the good things that we can do with it. We know that nuclear can help us in many ways. Radiation, for example, can be used as a positive. Instead of high radiation levels after Nagasaki, which are very dangerous, we can use radiation for medicine, for dentistry. We go to the dentist, you get radiation. It's the most we get. We have the human body is capable of receiving up to, we don't even know how many millisieverts per year of radiation. because we have DNA. DNA replicates, DNA repairs our body as we live, as we go along. Every day we have sun damage, we walk out in the sun puts spots on our body. We don't die. We repair ourselves as we go. So these arguments, pro-debates, pro-nuclear, against nuclear, they're old arguments. We can talk about it forever. They go back to the 1970s. You can talk about waste. We can talk about that too. But I think if you really look at the big issue, waste is not a problem because it's so intense. Nuclear is so intense that it's small amount of waste. All that America has used since 1940 can be put into a Walmart. Whereas oil, gas, coal, have you seen the pilings from the coal factories? It is the ugliest mess you've ever seen in your life. And we put it out in the atmosphere. We put out vapors that stink up the whole place. Gas smells. If you know methane gas, you don't see it, but you can smell it. It's everywhere. And now, as we dig for more gas and to back up our renewables, the gas is going to be more and more popular. But that's methane gas, and methane gas is not CO2, but it's, as it said in the clip you saw, is highly toxic in the short term, very dangerous. So the methane gas levels are going up, and in the film you'll see a chart. You'll see a picture of the resulting ring around the Earth that come from methane gas. It's a shame. It's a shame that we lost all this time with our fear of a bomb when we should have been thinking about the future. We didn't know about climate change back then. Now we've lost since, let's say, America stopped building around 1990, late 80s. Soon France stopped. Sweden stopped. Sweden was one of the early builders. Then we had the Chernobyl, which is the only nuclear accident that ever happened, in which 55 first responders were killed. And according to the UN and World Health Organization, possibly, we don't even know, 4,000 people died from cancer radiation that got loose in Northern Europe because the reactor in the Ukraine, Soviet Union, had no containment structure. We've since built better and better and better reactors. The more you build, the better it gets, the stronger it gets. The more you work with nuclear energy, the more you understand it. We have trained generations of workers in Korea, Japan. China is now come aboard. China is the most aggressive. And China, according to what I've heard, has planned for 150 new reactors. They already have some 40 reactors. They're planning for 150 new reactors by 2038, which is not too far away. That's more than 10 a year, 10 reactors a year. That's the kind of building that China has to do in order to get rid of its use of coal, because coal is the greatest contributor of coal in the world. India has 20-some reactors, but they have a huge demand. Population, 8 billion people. 1 billion, let's say in the West, are relatively well provided for. The other 7 billion are going to use anything they can to get what we have, because they see it. It's very evident on television. It's very evident on the internet. They want to get what we have, our energy. So they will use coal, they'll use wood if they have to, and they'll use all forms of oil if they can get it. So there's no end to this. I don't want to. How many minutes have I been in? I'm talking.
Yeah.
I don't want to take too much time here, but I urge you to see this movie. I don't see any way out of this mess without cutting down on fossil fuels. And no one has done that. It's proven that no one has done that. Nuclear energy has been proven for 70 years. With one accident at Chernobyl, nothing happened at 3 Mile Island. It was all hysteria. And at Fukushima, that was not a nuclear accident, although it's referred to as a nuclear accident. It was a tsunami and an earthquake, the largest earthquake Japan ever had. And then the tsunami, 100 feet tall, went over, attacked the area and flooded a set of generators in the Fukushima plant, which was one of several plants that were hit. The other plants, nothing happened. There was a low seawall, and the water got into the generators. Radiation was released. They checked all the Japanese in the area. Nobody died from radiation. It was relatively low-level radiation, as I repeat, 2-3% radiation. We have to live with radiation. It's all around us. It's in our atmosphere. We eat it. A banana has it. A banana has radiation. So let's get used to it. It's our friend. And the planet, the universe, is our friend. Not instead of this enemy that we see the planet now as hostile. It's been very friendly to us for so long. I urge optimism. I've lived with pessimism in the movie business. Is awful. They make movie after movie, like you saw those clips, the end of the world, apocalypse, wars. They love that. That's what they feed off of. Sensationalism, death, destruction. I hate that. It's my business. But I think this is the only movie I've ever seen that's pro-nuclear, and I'm glad we made it, because they are just not paying attention. They're not thinking. If we lose this civilization that we have created through thousands of years, and that we will lose it, because education will as things get worse and we choke, all the positive nature of man is going to be strangled out of fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is our enemy, and as Franklin Roosevelt reminded us, the fear of fear is the worst thing that any country can get into. The fear of fear is what we are scared of. We must stop this. Turn it around. Watch the movie and you'll begin to see there is hope on the other side, big hope. We can have a bright future. Thank you.